Tunakushukuru Bwana, wewe ni mwaminifu. Hakuna Mungu mwingine kama wewe Bwana. Asante kwa sababu ya siku ya leo. Asante kwa sababu ya kila jambo ambalo unataka kutenda Bwana. Tunajua ya kwamba uko pamoja nasi katika jina la Kristo. Tunaombea msikilizaji wetu, mtazamaji wetu, na kwamba masikio yake yanasikia neno lako na litakuwa linakumsaidia na manufaa ndani ya maisha yake katika jina la Kristo Yesu. Naomba kwamba tunapoendelea pamoja nasi, Roho wako atuongoze na jina lako litabaki kuwa limetukuzwa katika jina la Kristo. Naomba na kuamini. Bwana
Mana utukufu na sifa
utukufu na sifa ni zako ewe Bwana. Pokea heshima ewe Baba, twakupa siku ya leo. Heshima zote ni zako Baba, utukufu ni wako Yawe, twakupa zote zipokee, dhabihu kutoka moyoni mwetu. Heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako ewe Bwana. Heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako ewe Bwana. Heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako ewe Bwana. Heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako ewe Bwana. Heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako ewe Bwana. Pokea zote ni zako Yesu. Pokea heshima ni zako Bwana. Utukufu ni wako, mamlaka ni yako Yesu. Pokea utukufu, pokea heshima zote, pokea ni zako. Nani wako kama sio wewe? Pokea ni zako. Heshima na utukufu zako Yesu. Heshima na mamlaka ni yako Bwana, ni zako Yehova. Nani wa kupokea kama sio wewe Yesu? Wewe unayepasua bahari, wewe ambaye milima inatikika kusikia sauti yako, wewe Bwana wenye uweza na nguvu, hakuna kama wewe Bwana. Pokea heshima na utukufu na sifa zote ni zako Bwana. Wewe uketie mahali pa juu sana, wewe ambaye ni mtawala wa milele, wewe ambaye unadumu milele, mwanzo tena mwisho. Hakuna Mungu kama wewe. Pokea ni zako Yesu. Pokea heshima, pokea utukufu, pokea Bwana. Ni zako Bwana, ni zako Yesu, ni zako Bwana wa Bwana, ni zako. Pokea zote, heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako wewe Bwana. Heshima na utukufu na sifa ni zako wewe Bwana.
Good morning, viewers all over the world. We welcome you to our studio located at Nyua's apartment in Rumuruti, Kenya. Today, we are going to discuss anger. We shall look at the biblical perspective, and we have got so many references in the Bible that tells us about anger. But before we go to that, we need to look at the definition of anger. Anger is a condition. It is an emotional state that is sometimes very difficult to define. It is experienced by almost everyone in the whole world. All human beings experience a time of anger. It occurs in varying degrees, ranging from simple annoyance to violent rage. You see, some people get annoyed very easily. Even some do not need to be annoyed by somebody. They get annoyed just by sitting down. They get annoyed. But some are able to keep their anger. They're able to hide it. Now, anger begins at infancy and continues all through to old age. And remember, anger comes in various degrees. I've said some of the anger is a simple annoyance, and some anger is violent rage. Now, anger can be of short duration, coming and going very quickly, and some can even stay for decades. When anger is harbored for a long time, it may project in form of violence. Anger may be destructive, especially if it becomes violent rage. If it persists in form of unforgiveness, aggression, or resentment, then it becomes very destructive. But it can also become constructive if it is aimed at fighting evil. So anger projects itself in physiological and even some psychological manner. So we see this through the reactions. And some anger is felt inwardly in our conscious mind, and sometimes it is buried behind a very calm and smiling facade. You see somebody smiling, yet he has harbored a lot of anger in him or her. Anger, along with hostility, has been called the chief saboteur of mind, a significant factor that causes so many serious and chronic diseases. It is also the leading cause of misery, depression, inefficiency, sickness, accidents, loss of time, and financial loss in many industries. No matter what the problem is, be it marital, be it wife frigidity, be it child's defiance, be it nervous or physical diseases, elimination of anger or this hostility is the key factor, and this is only through forgiveness. This may sound as an overstatement, but it is a reality. I've not overstated that one. You have to forgive. For you to live peacefully, you have to forgive. Remember, without forgiveness, then you harbor a lot of grudge in you. This anger builds up, and soon it projects itself in various ways. Now, we shall look at two types of anger that are mentioned in the Bible. One is divine anger. The other one is carnal or human anger. In the Old Testament alone, there are about 600 references to anger. And this continues all through to the New Testament. Anger clearly is an attribute of God. And human beings also become angry. God becomes angry. So this godly anger is what I'm referring to, divine anger. Now, since anger is part of God's nature, then we cannot per se say that anger is bad. And since God is completely good, holy, we cannot say that God's anger is bad. Remember, God is all powerful. He's omnipotent. And he has shown his anger in various ways. His anger is a serious indignation against injustice. God hates sin. God hates injustice. We should also hate injustice. We should also hate sin, because we also acquire the attribute of God. In fact, he has given us this chance to share with him a part of his attribute, and which is anger. So divine anger is strong and settled opposition against all sin, all what is evil. Divine anger is directed not only to individuals, but to a community as well. Now, in Numbers chapter 16, verse 1 to 35, you read about the opposition that was led by Dathan, Korah, and Abiram. Remember, these are slave exiles from Egypt. And when they were in the wilderness, they arose against Moses. They claimed that Moses was making himself a leader. He was elevating himself more than everybody else. So they assembled many people. They brought them together and told them that Moses was not a special individual. And they had the audacity to tell Moses that he's elevating himself. So Moses became angry. He's a human. He has the attribute of God. He was angry. So he cried to God. And God told him that the following day, these people shall assemble and bring fire pans and come to the entrance of the Lord's tent. And whoever is accepted by God, then people will know that this is the person God is using. So Moses told them to do that. Remember, Dathan, Korah, and Abiram had other 250 followers. They were able to assemble the whole Israelite community. Remember, Moses did not assemble people. These are the people who called the community together. They brought them. They wanted to show their might. So they came and stood at the entrance of the Lord's tent. And many people are there. So God became angry with them, and he told Moses and Aaron to move away, and he was about to finish them. So Moses knelt down together with Aaron and pleaded for these people. So God is merciful. He listened to their plea. But he ordered Moses to tell the people to move away from the tents of Dathan, Korah, and Abiram. And then Moses told the people to move away. And whoever will not move away will be finished with those evil people. And Moses also announced to the people, if these evil people are going to die a natural death, then know that God has not used me. God has not called me. But if they die a death that is not natural, an unnatural death, and the earth opens and swallows them, then you'll know who God has called. And surely, as Moses had said, the earth opened up, it swallowed the families and everything that Dathan, Korah, and Abiram had, together with their children, with their camel, with everything they had, with even their tents. They were swallowed. The earth opened and swallowed them. They did not die a natural death. So here you see there is divine anger. Moses had divine anger. These are people who are joking with God. And therefore, God also became angry. And that's why he had said that he's going to finish their people. But Moses pleaded for them. So you see that this is what I'm calling divine anger. Repeatedly, God was angry with the unfaithful Israelites, and his son Jesus Christ is no exception. Remember, his wrath is clearly shown in the book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 20 to 30, when he saw that the teachers of law, the religious leaders of the were opposing the truth. So he became angry. His wrath is clearly shown there. Now, divine wrath is justified and completely consistent with God's love and mercy. On the basis of the death of Jesus Christ, in which he himself faced the full judicial wrath of God. He was crucified on the cross so that he himself became sin. He was crucified as a sinner. He took all our sin. He himself became sin. He faced the full wrath of God there on the cross. Because God hates sin. And now Jesus has become sin. You can just imagine the situation. Jesus was left there almost alone. And that is why he cried. He felt depressed. He felt lonely, such that all the heavenly being had left him, according to him. And that is why he cried, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why do you forsake me? Jesus cried because God had sinned. Remember, Jesus did a wonderful job. He took our sin, he became a sin. And for us to become righteous in the eyes of God, so that God's wrath will not be a blanket wrath, but rather it is wrath directed to the unrepentant sinners. Now, this is the day of the Lord. This is God's day. It is God's day of mercy. But remember, mercy does not eliminate God's wrath completely. It only eliminates wrath to those who repent, but to the unrepentant, wrath is still stored up for them. God is forgiving and compassionate, and for this reason, at times he restrains his wrath to give people, to give human beings time and opportunity to repent. In Romans chapter 1, verse 18, this speaks of a divine wrath that is revealed at present time and also for the future time to come. This one is revealed to the ungodly, those who oppose the truth, the unrighteous. So this God's wrath is directed to people who are unrighteous and who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Remember, most of these people had read the Bible, had read the scriptures, and they were opposing, and they were also trying to do perverted things that are so disgusting to God. And that is why in the book of Romans, you can see God's wrath there. The Bible also speaks of a wrath to come. Look at Revelation chapter 21, verse 8. It talks about the second death. For those who are not going to repent, the sinners, those who worship witchcraft, those who worship idols, those who practice witchcraft, liars, cowards. We are told their place is outside the city, and all these people will be thrown in the lake of fire with the sulfur, where they are going to burn forever. And this is the second death. So there is also wrath to come. There's also wrath, the present wrath. So if we disobey God, then we are sure to receive this wrath. Remember, we richly deserve God's wrath, but grace abounding. Had it not been for grace, then we would be suffering from God's wrath even right now. And understanding of this divine wrath, it is necessary for us to comprehend the biblical teaching about human anger. So the Bible never criticizes the anger of God, but it warns severally against human anger. So here we are talking about two types of anger: divine anger, which is godly anger, and human anger. Now, this is not evidence of a double standard. God does not exist in double standards. Not that he has allowed some anger and have justified some anger. No, but divine anger is justified. But human anger is not good. And we have been warned against it severally. Anger against injustice is good for God and also for men. Because God is wise, sovereign, powerful, perfect, and all knowing. Remember, God is omniscient, He is omnipotent, He is omnipresent. God is all knowing. He never misinterprets a situation. And therefore, He is never threatened by anything. Remember, He's all powerful. So, He cannot be controlled by situations. He cannot misinterpret any situation. But He is always, and remember this, He is always angered by sin and injustice. In contrast, our anger, we human beings, is not good. We misinterpret situations. We also make mistakes in judgment. We react quickly when we feel threatened. Remember, we are weak, and that is why we react very quickly. Some react by going physical. They can use their hands, they can fight. And some react by insulting or using abusive words. So when we are hurt, we feel threatened and we act very quickly. And this is what type of anger that God is telling us to shun from. So when people hurt you, you decide to take vengeance, and you also try to hide your anger so that you'll be able to take your vengeance in a way that your opponent or your enemy will not be able to identify. So as a result of human anger, human beings have done very bad things, very destructive. They have hurt others. They've become very dangerous. Remember, human anger provides an opportunity for Satan and is sometimes against what God has said. So, Satan gets a chance when you become angry. So, what does the Bible tell us? Be angry. That is in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. Be angry, and yet do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. This is what we have been warned. So God knows that we are going to become angry. And that is why He has warned us. If we become angry, then we should not allow the sun to go down with our anger still harbored inside our hearts. Now, from these and similar scriptures, passages we can also read. We can also reach several conclusions about human anger. Let's see some conclusions about human anger. We looked at 5 conclusions about human anger, and I'm going to do it very briefly. 1, we have seen that human anger is normal and not necessarily sinful. That is one. We agree with that human anger is normal and not necessarily sinful. Number 2, we have learned that anger can be harmful and sometimes very destructive. Number 3, human anger results from distorted perceptions. It is often results from distorted perceptions. Number 4, human anger often leads to sin through. Now look at the things that make human anger, make them sin against God. They sin through anger because anger leads them to vengeance. Remember, vengeance is not for human being, it's only for God. Even if people anger you, even if people do bad things, even if people talk bad about you, do not take vengeance. Vengeance is for God. Now, some sin through verbal abuse. Some people just speak. They speak shameful words whenever angered. They abuse the other person or the offender in using any word that comes across them. In fact, we can call this verbal diarrhea. In fact, they speak and speak and speak. They mention words that should not be mentioned even in public. Now, human anger also is caused by dishonest sharing. In fact, sometimes it also causes dishonest sharing. And some refusal to share. Number 5, human anger can be controlled. That is what we have seen. Human anger can be controlled through 1, acknowledging it. Without acknowledging that you are angered, then you cannot solve it. You cannot control your anger. So you must admit that you are angry. Through that way, then you'll be able to manage it. You'll be able to control it. Now, restraining outburst is very important for you to control your anger. So even if you are angry, restrain any outburst. In fact, even restrain talking to the person who have offended you. Give yourself time. Make sure that you do not mention any word that is going to hurt your offender. The other thing is that you can control your anger by confession and forgiveness. And this is the greatest key. In fact, this is the master key to hostility. It is the master key to anger. You forgive, you confess. If you have angered someone, then go to that person, seek for forgiveness. And you who have been offended, if the offender comes to you and asks for forgiveness, then forgive. God also forgives you. Remember, forgiveness does not only require the offender to come to you to ask for forgiveness. You can forgive even without the offender coming to you. In fact, this is what even God wants. Remember, Christ forgave those who had crucified him. They did not need to come to him to kneel before him, but he forgave them unconditionally. There on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. In fact, this is the same attitude that we should have. Since we are Christians, we've been called Christ-like. Then if we are Christ-like, then we should also forgive unconditionally, just as Christ forgave unconditionally. Now, the other thing to control your anger is avoid ruminating. Avoid now thinking and also playing back that video that you saw when you became angry. In your mind, stop it. Stop ruminating. Stop even revenge. Don't think about revenge. Now, we are forced to see that anger, the The only way out of anger is forgiveness. And I've said forgive unconditionally. Holding offense is like committing a crime. It puts one in a cage, in a prison. Unforgiveness is dangerous for your future. Whatever you do, let it come from your heart. If people attack you and say bad things about you, just leave them. Don't even retaliate. You just pray to God and tell Him, oh God, I don't know why these people are doing this to me, why they are saying about this, about me. Just leave them. Never use the slogan, an eye for an eye. That if a person offends you, then you also retaliate by taking revenge. No, don't do that. Don't also use the slogan, by fire, by fire. All these are witch doctors' slogans. And we Christians should not do that. When we become angry, we should try and settle these within ourselves as quickly as possible. Seek for forgiveness when you offend, and when offended, just forgive. Forgive unconditionally. Remember, harboring a grudge will cause you to do bad things. You can even hurt others, you can kill. Many people who try to conceal their anger through a face, a smiling face, are also very dangerous. Now, if you look at the sons of Jacob, they just pretended that they had forgiven Shechem, who had raped their daughter, their sister Dinah. And that's why even when Shechem came and asked for marriage, to marry their daughter, they agreed, but they knew what they wanted. Now, viewers, we have come to the end of our broadcast, and until next time, when we shall be in this studio, I bid you goodbye and may God bless you. Thank you.